Booney here, back with another part of my set review. Last time we covered dominance, artifacts, fortresses, and lost souls, and today we might be just looking at the heroes and good enhancements. And so this review is going to be from a deck builder's perspective, just talking about the different things you can do with these cards. I'm not going to be ranking them per se on a 1 to 10 scale or power level, but I'll just kind of maybe let you know what I feel like is strong overall. So speaking of strong, let's take a look at these Daniel cards here. The card that stands out the most to me from these cards is Daniel the Treasured. He is a major prophet, single brigade, major prophet. And so Daniel, he is a really powerful effect, protect Daniel heroes from harm. And then if alone, you may choose an evil character to block, and he also has a band in there. And all this has a modifier too, so it cannot be prevented. This is a very powerful package. So what are some things you can do with Daniel? Well, first things first, you can use cards that put evil characters in your opponent's territory and then attack with Daniel and choose those to block. And so Daniel says may choose an evil character. So this normally when we see choose the blocker effects, they only target humans, but Daniel can choose demons and animals to block too. So that combos well with cards that maybe place. So cards like Sordid Spirit, Accumulator, Possessing Spirit, these are all cards that combo really nicely there. Or maybe some cards that give control of cards to other people. So the Canaanites are really famous of doing that. My favorite combo to do with Daniel, and one that I'm using in my recent Lackey decks, is one where I'm able to give my opponent Cicera the Commander, and who says if blocking OT enhancements cannot be negated. So I attack with Daniel by himself, choose Cicera as a blocker, and then I play Water from the Lord to withdraw Cicera and draw 3 cards. So this is CBN, and I get to withdraw Cicera and get to choose the block next turn, and I also get to draw 3 cards out of it. So pretty good. So there's a lot of different cards that can give or place cards in their territory that you can take advantage of. Daniel also really works well with cards like 20 shekels that can reveal opponent's hand and play characters. And sometimes they're going to have characters that don't have enhancement support. And so you're going to be able to put them in scenarios where their blocking probably won't work. And on top of all that, the best way to deal with maybe choose the blocker effects have been cards like Christian Martyr, where if they're attacking with the Simon the Zealous and they're choosing your guy to block, you can just Christian Martyr or Falling Away, they choose the blocker hero. But Daniel, since he protects from harm, means that they're going to have something to interrupt that protection before they're able to play their dominance. And so I've spent a lot of games with my Daniel, just marching Daniel into battle. An opponent has Falling Away and Christian Martyr in their hand, but they aren't even able to use them really effectively. Like they can Christian Martyr Daniel in your territory, but there are a bunch of ways to get Daniel back. So the Watchman is one of them who can be exchanged with a major minor prophet in deck territory discard pile reserve. So if your Daniel dies, you can get him back out, or if you want an early way to get to Daniel, the Watchman can also do that. Speaking of other ways to get to Daniel, you have the Victorious Being, who can draw a card in exchange with the single brigade prophet from your deck or discard pile, so it's another way to get Daniel back if he dies. And if you need yet more ways to get to Daniel once he dies, you can do Daniel's Guardian, which can release a captured hero. So if your Daniel gets captured, you can get him back potentially and exchange this with the Daniel from deck or discard pile. So if your Daniel dies, this is another way to get to him. And lastly, or second to last, so you have Great White Throne as another way to get to Daniel, or your Watchman or whatever. And you have your Angel of the Winds as another way to get to Daniel. So notably, this Daniel is not a cloud hero. Unlike the other Daniels, they had the cloud identifier. And I believe if the card does not have that cloud identifier, it's not considered a cloud hero. So if Daniel was a cloud hero, this combo with Angel of the Winds would be kind of overpowered. So yeah, that's Daniel the Treasured. Probably, in my opinion, the best card from the set. And there's so much you can do with him from a deck building perspective. Like you can build a whole deck just built around Daniel by himself, or kind of layer him on with a bunch of other Daniel cards. So the other Daniel card that's really strong is Michael the Guardian. That gives them resiliency to your Daniel heroes by allowing you to top deck them if they are harmed. May ban to a Daniel Human and OT Angel, cannot be negated. So because you can ban to a Daniel Human and an OT Angel, it gives you really a lot of ways to mix and match your Daniel band here. So let's kind of talk about that. So as far as the Daniel Human, you have a a long list of people to choose from here. I think all the Daniel humans are white or green, and we don't care about Daniel Belshazzar, so let's just filter on white. So you have kind of two different paths you can go with that band. One is the one that bands to generic Daniel humans, so you can choose to band to eternal believers, for example, but that kind of locks you in. If you want to extend the banding chain with these guys, you have to continue banding to generic humans. So for example, this guy will band to generic Daniel human, and this guy will band to generic Daniel human. So these generic Daniel humans, you probably want to put them as far back on your banding chain as possible because they're the most restrictive cards. Whereas cards like Daniel or Meshach, these are more flexible bands, so you can put them earlier on in the banding chain. You can also use Michael to get a double human band in, and what I mean by that is you have Michael do the band to a Daniel human, so that's like you can start one stack of Daniel humans banding, and then you can band to OT Angel, but there's a couple OT Angels that can let you get to your Daniel cards, and so we've already seen Daniel's Guardian. So if you still haven't drawn your Daniel yet, you can go Michael, band to a bunch of Daniel humans, band to Daniel's Guardian, and then that can get to your Daniel, which Daniel can then exchange or band to the rest of your Daniel humans. Or if you're running Victorious Being, that's another way you can get to your Daniel and have a double Daniel band. Another way you can do it is with this new Daniel Gabriel. He can band to a Daniel human. So there's like a lot of different ways you can turn Michael into two stacks of Daniel banding. And so this really incentivizes you to build your deck in a way where you're getting to all these Daniel heroes and Michael as fast as possible. And there's a lot of ways to get to that. You have your territory class enhancements from Times to Come. The Given from God lets you dig to you that get that Michael or more banding pieces. And to get to Michael specifically, Daniel's Prayer can help you get your Daniel Angels. So when you're looking to build a deck that can function well at a high level, it's important to be aware of all these consistency pieces that make it really likely that you'll be able to get your strategy online as quickly as possible. And so I think we'll be seeing a lot of Daniel style decks that are going to be kind of going all in and getting this Daniel band going with Michael as the beginning of that. And last video I talked about Ancient of Days, and so just wanted to mention it here as more ways to get to all these Daniel heroes we're talking about. Or if you're running a more defense heavy deck, what you can do is maybe put all these Daniel heroes in the reserve and use Concealed Riches to kind of bring them out when you're ready. So you could have like Ancient of Days where you have to build all your deck with Daniel, or you could just try to compartmentalize. And we've seen Tyler kind of talk about using Concealed Riches to in a Joshua deck. And Joshua has that Captain of the Host, so you're able to combine your Joshua stuff with the Daniel stuff from your reserve because of how Michael can band a captain. And now you have Daniel's stack on one end of the band and the other end of the band is Joshua stuff. So like that's also another way you can do it. So just like these two cards by themselves open up a lot of fun deck building puzzles. I'll just give you an example of one deck building puzzle that you can do with this. So like, let's say your Daniel's dead and you are running Daniel's Guardian. What you can do is you can like attack with Michael, get your Daniel's Guardian, exchange to Daniel, and now you can continue your Daniel band. Or for example, this guy, if you decide to play Abednego in your deck, you can play a Daniel human from your deck. So you go Michael, band Abednego, play a Daniel human, and let's say Michael's banding to Gabriel. Gabriel's band could then band to the Daniel human you play from Abednego. So there's just like little cool synergies like that to look out for and play with Michael and these double bands. There's like so many different ways you can layer it. And it makes it kind of fun to think about. A card that also is important to talk about in the context of these double banding chains with Michael is Servants of the King. The fact that you can bounce a human in battle is pretty significant with this guy. So first let's talk about, let's say you push in a Daniel the Treasured, protect Daniel heroes from harm, may ban to a Daniel hero, and let's say you choose to ban to Servants of the King. So before the rest of Daniel's ability checks, Servants of the King's ability would happen. So you can choose to bounce a human, and you can, let's say you choose to bounce Servants of the King, which is a legal play. You wouldn't be able to continue the ban chain with Servants of the King, but you would be able to draw two cards. So all of a sudden, you've gone Daniel banned to Servants, Servants has been bounced, and you get to draw two, and then you have a Daniel in battle alone that can choose an evil character to block. So you just turned your Daniel choose the blocker attack into a Daniel draw two choose the blocker, and being able to generate resources when you're doing choose the blocker attack strategy is very powerful. But in the context of a bigger banding chain, so like let's say you have Michael and you band it to a bunch of Daniel cards, you go Daniel and then you go banded to Servants of the King, and now you can choose to use Servants of the King and bounce your Daniel. So why would you want to do that? Well, let's say opponent has a 3 woes in their hand that could potentially negate Daniel and negate that protection. When Daniel goes to your hand, all of a sudden they don't have a way to target Daniel's protection. So in order to get Daniel back into battle for him to get negated, like with a targeted negate, they first have to negate Servants of the King, which would negate the bounce, and then Daniel would be back in battle, and then you'd have a chance to negate him. And so I'm going to be uploading some gameplay later on this week where I'm playing against Jaden, and we both are doing shenanigans with Servants of the King bouncing Daniel. And basically, when Daniel gets bounced, it's not a really interactive, it doesn't give the blocker a lot of interactive ways to stop the protection. You'd have to have maybe like regardless of protection card, or like 2 negates. If you had a card that said interrupt the battle and then do something, that would interrupt Daniel's effect because that's an ongoing effect. So interrupt the battles would work, but targeted negates would not work so much. But the bounce a human card, this can be used to bounce Women of Thebes in their territory, so you can reuse her. This can be used to bounce cards that maybe are paralyzed or have stuff placed on them. Anytime I see a bounce effect on a hero, my eyes like go to that. Bounce effects in Redemption are surprisingly powerful, and there's a lot of ways you can abuse them. Like we were talking about bouncing your heroes in battle, making them harder to target. So like that's one example of that. But there's other ways bounce. You can just reuse it to reset your meek heroes or make them harder for your opponent to target them. Another silly thing you can do with Servants of the King is you can attack with Servants of the King, bounce Servants of the King, and choose to draw 2 cards. So let's say you're off to a really slow start. You only have a Servants of the King in your hand, and you don't want to let the opponent block. So if you attack with Servants of the King, bounce Servants of the King, and then draw 2, you don't give your opponent the chance to block. But you do get to draw 2 cards out of it, which is pretty sweet. So that's something silly you can do with Servants of the King. All right, let's continue moving on. We got Eternal Believers here. Allows you to take a good Daniel card from your deck. So this is pretty good. Allows you, so like in the context of Michael the Guardian, let's say you go Michael, band to Gabriel, and then Michael's Daniel Human bands to Eternal Believers. You can take a good Daniel card from deck with Eternal Believers, and then when Gabriel chooses to band to a Daniel Human, if you chose to grab a Daniel Human with Eternal Believers, you could use your Gabriel to band to that card. In addition to helping you get your banding chain out early, there are also some good dominance that this guy can be grabbing mid-battle. So Ancient of Days or Son of God, anybody? Or Bound in Battle. So the fact that this guy can grab one of those 3 good dominance is really significant. And the fact that you can do it mid-battle too is strong. Like being able to go Eternal Believers into Bound in Battle, they block, and then you play this. It's just really strong. And in the context of if you're wanting to play a bigger deck, having ways to get to Son of God consistently is strong. For example, I'm playing a big Daniel Canaanite deck, and I should probably switch my Son of God to the Daniel Son of God, because if my opponent has Eternal Believers, I can use Daniel to band to their Eternal Believers and then get Son of God out of my deck. So whenever there's a card that says you can take stuff from your deck, my ears kind of perk up, so to say, from a bigger deck building perspective, because anything that gets you consistency is nice, especially the cards that do Son of God consistency. Continue on. Let's go to Leaders for the Lord. Negate neutral cards except Daniel cards. May band to generic Daniel Human, or you may take a good Daniel card from reserve. This kind of fits in with the theme that this Daniel offense is trying to do, where you're trying to put as many effects that are difficult for the opponent to deal with in battle as possible. So the fact that there's an option to do a negate neutrals is nice. There isn't really anything else like this in the card pool for Daniel. So if you have protection from harm, and then you have negate neutrals, and you also have protecting lost souls, like this just seems like a really good way to extend that oppressiveness that the Daniel band can do. So there are artifacts maybe that could mess up the Daniel band, so being able to negate those is a nice option. And there might be some lost souls out there that can be a little bit difficult to deal with the Daniel ban, but notably it does not, just a side note, you cannot negate the Wicked Lost Soul. The reason being is that this is applying a modifier and you can't negate cards that apply modifiers. So cards like Wicked and the Humble Lost Soul, these are cards inherently can't be negated. So don't think your Leaders of the Lord will help you when the opponent has a Wicked. Abednego may ban to a Daniel Human, or you may play a Daniel Human from deck. Good cards with repeat and the special ability cannot be prevented. Yeah, I guess the only thing that stands out to me for this card is the fact that if you're playing with Michael, you can potentially use the Daniel Human you play out of your deck and band it in later. But aside from that, I think the older Abednego is probably a little bit stronger effect and a more needed effect where you're trying to protect Lost Souls. The old Abednego protects Lost Souls from evil cards, so getting that baked in is nice. As far as the good abilities with repeat and special ability cannot be prevented, maybe there's a scenario where you use Michael to band a Captain of the Host and you have a bunch of repeat enhancements in your hand. But I think the only repeat enhancements that you really want to play already have like that CBN stuff in it. So I'm not really seeing how the good repeat modifier is. I mean, this effect probably gets better over time as they print more repeat cards, but right now doesn't feel as compelling as a reason to want to play this card. Meshach, who protects hands, decks, and reserves from opponents, may ban to a Daniel Human, or you may draw X. X is the number of your Daniel heroes in battle. So just to give some context about what this effect does, it prevents opponents from searching their decks, prevents opponents from drawing cards, prevents opponents from searching their reserves, prevents opponents from adding to battle from their hand, prevents opponents from adding to battle from their reserve, prevents the opponent from blocking and looking at your hand. So there are a lot of evil characters in the game that love to search deck for something, or search reserve for enhancement, or reveal opponent's hand to do something. And Meshach just kind of turns all that off with one line of text. To say that this effect is powerful would be underselling what I'm saying. And the fact that you can combine Meshach and Daniel into the same band, where you have protection on your heroes and you're also protecting, these two cards by themselves create a really difficult dynamic for any defense to block. The most played evil character in the game is the Deceiver. And so just being able to turn off this single card block. And if we look at the data from Nationals, which I'm currently getting up the motivation to continue working on, we'd see a lot of these other evil characters that have like Herod's Guard. Well, that's CBP. That's a bad example. But for example, oh, never mind. So even though this cannot be prevented, if your deck is protected from being searched through, you can't use Herod's Guard to go do it. So never mind. It is a good example. But yeah, Herod's Guard is really popular one. David's Servants, Philistine Armor Bearer for Philistines, Crafty Gibeonites for Canaanites, Wandering Israelites for... But there's like just a lot of these types of exchange effects that are really popular for blockers. And I've typed in reserve and I filtered on evil characters, but look at all these evil characters that care about the reserve in some capacity. All of these become a lot worse. One of the really great blocks, Saul of Tarsus, being able to grab unsuccessful from your reserve, the Meshach shuts all that off. So while I'm a little bit disappointed how there's a hero that kind of turns all of this off, because there's a lot of good things going on with evil characters and what they can do with the reserve and what their deck, this card just really just punishes that. However, there is a trade-off. So yes, the opponent won't be able to search their deck, but the opponent will also be able to play evil characters that punish hand protection. What do I mean by that? Cards like Alexander of Troas. There's a lot of these cards that cannot be negated modifiers, but opponent has to do something by getting rid of something from their hand. So this would become CBN, or this would become CBN, or Emperor Domitian would become CBN because they can't. Oh wait, he's just CBP, but. Or Prince of Persia, CBN. So there's this trade-off, but generally speaking, this subset of cards that care about messing up something if the opponent's hand is protected, that's generally not as strong as this effect. This effect is... What I'm trying to say is that you're happy if you're able to push a Meshach into battle. Generally speaking, on average, that's going to work out better for you in the long term. On top of that, on top of the protection, he is able to draw X, where X is the number of Daniel heroes in battle. So in addition to this really strong protection effect, you're also getting a strong draw effect too. And this is something that can really keep the pressure on, because in theory, you're able to put a Meshach into battle and also a Servants of the King into battle. And you can potentially be drawing 5 cards every time you attack. Trying to think if there's anything else I want to mention as far as the protecting hands, decks, and reserves from opponents. If opponent tries, oh, here's another thing. So like, let's say opponent is blocking with a card that bans to an evil character. They block with that card, and then let's say they have an evil character in their hand that they want to try and ban to. Well, their hand's protected. They cannot ban stuff from their hand, so they wouldn't be able to ban from hand. So that's another, I guess, important thing to keep track of. So yeah, I would say this card is probably one of the strongest attacks in the game right now, if I would have to say. This shuts off a lot of evil dominants that care about searching your deck. This draws cards. Yeah, this card is really good. And I know I wouldn't say I would be doing something, I wouldn't be talking about power rankings so much. And here I am talking about power rankings, but just trying to give you my thoughts on, as a deck builder, I have to be aware of this card when I build my defense. Maybe I'll have to adapt and reduce some of the cards that search my deck for something, for example. And so as a deck builder, I need to be aware of what the most powerful strategies are and being able to become adaptable and flexible to what the opponents are doing. So like, for example, maybe I put in Satan's Seed into my deck now. Maybe I run Confusion of Mind. So just stuff like that. All right, let's continue moving on here. Service of the King. You may reveal the top 7 cards of a deck, play a Lost Soul, and the deck's owner may take a good enhancement. Cannot be interrupted. So you can target your opponent's deck, or you can target your deck. Daniel doesn't really have great ways to do soul generation, so it's nice that you have some options here. Or it's also nice that if you're trying to dig to your good enhancements, Servants of the King lets you do that. It's generic. You can play multiple copies of this guy in bigger decks. Whenever there's generic mono Brigade characters, I always think about like what could happen if I was able to run 4 of these in type 2 or something like that. And Servants of the King definitely passes that muster. But Servants, let's see, are these both Servants of the King? Well, that's confusing. How am I supposed to know which one am I referencing to? Okay, I don't know why they couldn't have just named this a little bit differently. But now you have to be really, whenever I talk about Servants of the King, I'm probably going to be referring to this one. So they call this one Sky, and they call this one River. Okay, interesting. This effect reminds me of the Kingdoms of the World card. No, that's not the name of it. What's the one? What's the site? Ends of the Earth. Close enough, right? But this is also a reveal the top 7, put a Lost Soul in play, and add an enhancement to the opponent's hand. Also cannot be interrupted. And that card was playable in Disciples decks, so maybe this is playable in Daniel. But the fact that he doesn't band or anything makes it so that you have to do a band topper with Servants of the King. And you definitely have a lot of better options to top your band off. But this could be an effect you want, I don't know. Shadrach, prevent enhancements with strength X or less, may band to a Daniel human, or you may look at a hand. So assuming you're not playing the old Daniel, who this used to be the way that Daniel bands would attack and be able to shut off their opponent's enhancements. But the new Daniel just protects from harm. He doesn't stop the opponent's enhancements. So having another Daniel hero that will prevent enhancements with strength X or less incentivizes you to put a lot of Daniel heroes into battle, and also complements the strategy of making a Daniel band that is hard to block. Getting the hand knowledge is nice. So this guy could make a fine Daniel banding topper, or being able to continue the band is great. So yeah, solid card. But as a deck builder, be aware that he's going to be preventing all enhancements with strength X or less, including your own. So if you're trying to play good enhancements in battle that don't have the CBN or cannot be prevented modifier, that's just something you have to be aware of when thinking about what enhancements you want to put into your deck. All right, so that's the Daniel white heroes. Let's look at the silver ones now. We've already talked a little bit about Gabriel, single Brigade Prophet, great to get to with Victorious Being, bans to Daniel humans, a lot of synergy there. And he is good at reducing the amount of options the opponent has to block your Daniel band. There are enhancements that are great at killing Daniel heroes. There's cannot be negated scattered effects. There's regardless of protection enhancements that do stuff. But if you're able to get an early Gabriel out and attack, you can start one by one surgically extracting opponent's answers, so that later, the more the game goes on, the less likely it is your opponent will be able to stop you. So he fits really well with the Daniel theme, and having a cannot be negated band is icing on the cake there. So if you're playing Daniel decks, then this guy I think definitely makes your cut. Intercessor, territory class card, Unity heroes with a Daniel reference. If your hero is harmed, you may add this card to battle. While a hero is in battle, you may reserve this card to negate an evil card. So obviously actually goes really well with the Daniel theme. You have a Daniel band you push into battle. You have the intercessor sitting in battle, or you can even choose to put them in your banding chain. But I don't see why you'd want to put them in your banding chain unless your heroes are, your territory class heroes are getting negated, because this effect will work. And this is also good at stopping a lot of the stuff that are annoying blocks for Daniel, like Woman of Thebes or Saul of Tarsus, characters that have an effect when they come down that is annoying for Daniel to deal with. This guy can just, as long as you have a hero in battle, this guy can just reserve him to negate that. And there's ways to get stuff out of your reserve, so you can potentially keep reusing this over and over again. And if opponent is able to remove your giant banding chain of Daniel heroes, you can add this guy to battle to extend the battle. So yeah, really solid card. If you're playing a Daniel deck, this is a great payoff for that. Let's see, are there any other Daniel stuff? So we have Servants by the River, negate an evil card. You may look at the top 3 cards of a deck. You may underdeck them if another Daniel hero is in battle, repeat 1 time. This isn't getting you card advantage per se. This is just looking at the top 3 cards of deck and negating an evil card. This card's great to band into battle with enhancements, and this is good at setting up the top card of your deck. What this can do is can help you set up your Ancient of Days, because if you whiff the first 3 on Ancient of Days, you don't get to do the rest of it. So you can like look at the top 3 and like, oh, there's no Daniel under deck. And now like look at the top 3. Oh, there's a Daniel in there. Okay, now I'm good to fire off Ancient of Days. So that's like something you can do. I don't know if it's like potentially like that powerful, but I see the little synergies here and there. Another thing this can help you do is with a soul drought type strategy, where you're looking at the top 3 cards of your deck. If they contain any lost souls, you underdeck them. So it makes it statistically improbable to draw lost souls as a result. So maybe you're playing a Daniel style deck that's trying to not, instead of drawing cards, it's trying to underdeck top cards of your deck. So let's keep moving on here. We got the Cherubim. You may draw 1 or restrict players from searching any reserve. So kind of like Meshach a little bit, in that shutting off the reserve is a powerful type of effect. May ban 2 Cherubim, an OT Green Prophet, or a Clay Priest. So there's a lot of things you can do with this card. He's generic Mono Brigade, and he works well in multiple copies because you can just go Cherubim, draw 1, ban a Cherubim, draw 1, ban a Cherubim. So like that's from a type 2 perspective, this card is appealing to get multiple copies of. And as far as the band, you have 4 copies of Cherubim to band 2. All of them are pretty interesting. Or OT Green Prophets. Shall I look at the list of OT Green Prophets really fast? There's a lot of options here, that's for sure. And I don't have the deck building capacity to tell you exactly what are the best lines you can do here. But this is just interesting because you can go like Michael, band your Daniel stuff, and then band OT Angel, and a Cherubim, and all of a sudden now you're unlocked a whole new thing. So I mentioned earlier how Tyler was combining his Joshua and his Daniel, but maybe there's a strategy out there that combines Green Prophets with Daniel. So now you have a big Prophet banding chain and also a Daniel banding chain. The Prophets do have some pretty powerful banding chains in there. So that's just something. Or a Clay Priest. Shall I look at all the Clay Priests, the good OT Clay Priests? Not Prophets, Priests. Yeah, if you're good OT Clay, there's a good chance you're a priest. So yeah, you got some options there. Not as many as the OT Prophets, of course, but what's up with all these new cards having this effect? Protect decks and reserve from opponent. There's a theme here that I think defenses are going to have to adapt to. Anyways, I digress. So yeah, this guy's like a Swiss Army knife, draws a card, has a powerful restrict effect, probably the most powerful of all the Cherubims. A lot of things you can do with this card as a deck builder. I'm excited to look at this card and see how I can slot it into my decks and use it to glue different types of strategies together. This Cherubim, opponent may top deck an evil card from hand. If they do not, you may top deck their evil card and band to an Ezekiel hero. So the band is less broad. So let's look at all the Ezekiel heroes right now. So you got your Cherubims, of course, and you have some Ezekiel heroes and the Watchmen. So just because you can band to the Cherubims have a lot of banding options by themselves, and the Watchman also has a ability to get to a lot of different heroes. So this Cherubim, despite having a really narrow banding clause, you can actually do a lot of things with them still. And then as far as the top decking stuff, yeah, that's cool, I guess. Historically speaking, when I'm looking at that type of effect, reminds me a lot of the Sons of Jacob theme. An opponent would always have the luxury of getting to choose whatever was the best effect for them, or not even caring about. Like a lot of times people would attack me with their Sons of Jacob and be like, yeah, I don't want to do anything. I don't care about your effect. So I kind of imagine the effectiveness of this will kind of go along the same way. But moving on, we've got the Patrols of the Earth, CBN draw 3, potentially something that keep my ears open for is any hero that has a cannot be negated draw 3. But this requires you to play Zechariah heroes. And what are my Zechariah heroes at this point in time? We have a suite of angels, we have some prophets, and we have some clay and red heroes. So those aren't really going to help us out here, right? But I guess you really be having to play a really specific type of deck to get the full payoff here. Let's see, you have maybe like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 playable Zechariah heroes, and the chances of getting 3 of them out at the same time are all pretty small. But here's something to note. Let's say you're playing a type 2 deck. These are generic, this is generic, this is generic, so you can play like 4 of these, 4 of these, 4 of these. So despite there being a small number of them, the fact that these guys are generic can really help you out get to that X limit faster if you build your deck in that way. So maybe there's a bigger 100 card deck in type 1 that wants to play 2 of these guys, 2 of these guys, 2 of these guys, and focuses on trying to get them all out. So anyways, so that's kind of his drawing. He has another ability that says exchange up to X cards from hand with equal number of good OT cards from reserve. So basically this becomes a way to get 2 cards from your reserve. You can only get to up to 3 at a time, and they have to be good OT cards. But maybe this becomes a combo enabler in some way where you're trying to resolve a good enhancement, good OT enhancement. So like let's say maybe you're setting up a banding, trying to band angels into battle. Well, you can get your Army from the Lord into your hand if you attack with that angel. Or let's see. So yeah, used by Zechariah hero, interrupt the battle. OT hero might band up to 2 heroes from each player. So this is like just a solid Patrols of the Earth, grabbing, Jerusalem filled. It's just like a solid line of play for your Zechariah deck. And so last year I built a type 2 deck that was reliant on New Testament Silver Brigade. But maybe this year I could look at what would an Old Testament Silver Brigade big banding angel deck look like. And this guy seems like it could fit in there. All right, moving on. May band to a Zechariah hero, or you may take a good OT enhancement from deck or reserve. Cannot be negated. So this is another Zechariah hero that maybe you can set up combos with your enhancements. Like I already talked about Jerusalem filled, but I'm sure there's a lot of other things you can do out there with being able to get good OT enhancements. And so again, like as a player who's really liking to think about all the options I can do, the fact that this guy can attack and grab a good OT enhancement, I'm like, okay, what are maybe some of the territory class good OT enhancements I can do? Specifically the ones that filter or that are searching for things. So this can get delivered, which can activate an artifact at the end of my turn, for example. This can get inherent Canaan, which can give Canaanites to the opponent to set up some combos. This can get scapegoat to, at the end of your turn, you can play scapegoat down and restrict opponents from attacking you. Oh yeah, Solemn's Dream, like you can use this to take a good card from your deck. First sacrifice, great way to set up and punish opponents during your next attack. So yeah, something I'm looking at. The problem with cards that really care about trying to resolve enhancements is that there's a lot of defenses in the world right now that do a great job of preventing you from playing enhancements. So deciding to build your entire deck around the idea of you being able to play a good enhancement in battle could be problematic. So Seraph may ban to any OT Prophet or Isaiah hero, or you may play an Isaiah hero from deck. The fact that Seraph can attack and then play Angel of its Presence, which we'll talk about later, is a strong play pattern and could fit well in a silver deck that is just trying to put a bunch of angels into battle and make it difficult for the opponent to block them. Surveying Spirit says reveal all hands. You may shuffle evil card from hand, the hand with the most revealed evil brigades, regardless of protect. Not only is this guy really small, he has 1-2 numbers. He's most likely going to get initiative every battle. That works well with Silver Brigade. Silver Brigade has a lot of good enhancements that you'd like to get initiative to play, specifically the ones that ban stuff into battle, like Everlasting Beings, Return to Flight, or Second Seal, or now even Jerusalem Filled. So like he's great to combo with these enhancements that we've been talking about. But if you build your deck in a way where you're really focusing on not trying to run that many evil brigades, this card becomes regardless of protect, take your opponent's best evil card out of their hand and shuffle it. Something you can also do is play less evil enhancements in your deck. So the less evil enhancements you have in your deck, what you can do with this card is, like, let's say you have some evil characters and evil fortress, you play those down before you attack, and now you don't have any evil cards with evil brigades in your hand. And so Surveying Spirit is most likely to hit something from the opponent's hand. This card can also shuffle Dominance, which is insane. And this card really rewards you for building your deck in a way that you can get the payoff for this card. He's also generic. He's also Mono Brigade, and the fact that you can ban multiple copies of this into the same battle is significant. So, like, let's say you attack with Surveying Spirit, then you play Bound in Battle to have your angel banned to your OT angels. So now you have 2 of them in battle. Before blocks, you're able to shuffle maybe 2 evil cards from their hand. Or you have Surveying Spirit, and then you play a card that bans, and now you're banned another Surveying Spirit into battle. You really limit the opponent's options they have on defense here. Maybe you're playing a Daniel deck, and now all of a sudden you can go Michael the Guardian, ban to your Daniel stuff, and now you ban to Surveying Spirit, and now you're attacking their hand too. You don't have a lot of good ways to stop the Daniel band, but Surveying Spirit like guarantees that opponent will not have an answer for you if you do that. So yeah, another card is a deck builder I'm really excited to build around, and also nervous to play against, because I like having my hand protected, and I don't like having somebody come at me with, regardless of protect, messing up my evil dominance, because I like to play decks that use evil dominance to get blocks. So all right, Angel of Presence territory class says, while no good enhancement is in battle, protect Isaiah heroes from harm. So I guess we're gonna have to look at the reference for Isaiah heroes, the good Isaiah heroes. So let's see, that's mostly just like some angels, Isaiah. Yeah, I guess you have Mighty Warrior. But here's something to note. Let's see, you have 3 different Isaiah heroes that have territory class abilities. So maybe there's a Isaiah deck out there that likes to try and put these Isaiah heroes down and then like push one Isaiah hero and let it be supported by the territory class stuff. But anyways, it says, if attacking, look at the top 7 cards from deck, take up to 1 good card. So this is another card that I'm thinking about in the context of, like, what if I had this Silver Brigade deck that's trying to put stuff into battle? Just having like a random one of Angel of the Presence that can protect himself from harm is powerful. And so this is a card, if I were to build like an OT angel banding deck, I probably want to include. Not only is he a strong effect, he also rewards you for banding him into battle by looking at the top 7 cards of deck. So it kind of reminds me of this card, which I was using a lot last year, who kind of had this effect that you could look at the top X and take 1. Where Angel of the Harvest maybe is a little bit better, like he's able to take your defensive cards. So you attack, you grab defensive cards off the top of your deck, and you'll be really well equipped to deal with opponent's blocks next turn. And also the soul generation is really nice too. Heavenly Watcher, who says, negate evil band abilities, you may underdeck an artifact, evil fortress, or evil enhancement. So having a card you can put into your Daniel banding chain that negates evil banding abilities is strong, but not as strong as the other effect we've seen. And then being able to underdeck an artifact, evil fortress, or evil enhancement. Like, Daniel decks don't have great ways to deal with artifacts, so like this effect to underdeck an artifact is nice. They don't have a lot of great ways to deal with Sheol or Gates of Hell. So having an option to deal with that is nice too. So this just kind of fills in some random gaps in the Daniel band that could be a problem for Daniel decks. So it's nice to have this as an option to be aware about as a deck builder. If the meta is shifting to where evil banding abilities are everywhere or evil fortresses are everywhere, he's like, oh, this is something I could use as just Daniel player to adapt to that. All right, that is the Silver Brigade heroes. Now we have our Green Brigade heroes. Look at the most, let's see, what's the word I'm going to use for this guy? The most what? I'm going to say he's probably one of the strongest Green Prophets we've seen, because you can band him into battle and shuffle opponent's evil character, and that's CBI. There are a lot of cards that do banding of Green Prophets into battle. Like, for example, you can play your Bound in Battle Dominant, grab your Victorious Being. Victorious Being can go get to Amos, and then Amos bounces your guy, CBI, whatever. So any card that bans to angels can potentially be used to get to Amos. So for example, my clay deck that I was using last year, it was trying to play entertaining angels, and that would band in like John and Zacchaeus tossed to next and then reserve their evil character. Now you could potentially simplify the workflow. You could go like entertaining angels, get your Angel of the Winds. Angel of the Winds goes to Amos, and like, what are they going to do if they have one evil character in battle? And then it gets shuffled like that. So Amos opens up a lot of different deck building strategies regarding banding, and putting Amos into battle in all these weird ways. And recently, there's been some talk about a new Roots 2 set, and they spoiled a card from that set called Dragon Raid. And Dragon Raid says, while character is blocking, you may underdeck this card to add a good OT profit to battle. And so this is kind of like, I just post a comment in the Discord chat of like, well, this kind of seems really overpowered with Amos. Like, I don't know if I'm a fan of them being able to have a potentially repeatable way to add Amos in the battle over and over again. So unfortunately, Amos kind of puts a design cap on any future card that can add profits to battle or bans green heroes into battle. When you're designing these cards, you now have to really think about like, okay, people are going to be able to add Amos to battle. And so I think they're going to have to go back to the design board for Dragon Raid and have to redo it so that it doesn't work with Amos, because Amos is just like that good. So he does have a downside, which is that you have to discard an evil enhancement, or sorry, you have to, okay, so wait, let me see. Let me read him. It says, you may discard evil enhancer from a deck or shuffle an evil card controlled by each player cannot be interrupted. So if you choose to do the shuffle where you're shuffling the opponent's blocker, maybe, you also have to shuffle an evil card that you control. So if your evil cards are in your hand, that's great. You don't have to touch those. But if you do have evil card in play, you have to shuffle it, which could potentially be a downside, but it could also potentially be an upside. Let's say you have an evil character or evil fortress or something that you want to reuse somehow. Amos could potentially help you recycle that. I don't know. I can't think of anything off my top of my mind that you'd want to do that for, but that's there. He also has the option to discard evil enhancements from a deck. So there's like so many things you can do with Amos. He's a minor prophet. There's the Watchman can get to Amos, the Victorious Being can get to Amos, the Angel of the Winds can get to Amos. I mean, there's like a lot of ways to get to Amos. So any hero that has like all these ways to get to them, they're very build aroundable. So yeah, I expect if there's a green deck, they're going to be running Amos. That's what I'm expecting. So I need to like think about, as a blocker, what are my options now? So they're going to be able to do CBI, shuffle my blocker. Maybe I need to start adding more add to battle effects like Gates of Hell, Sheol, Warrior Overtake, and Murder's Command, so that after they kind of do this little combo here, I'll be able to have outs to it. Anything else I want to say about Amos of Tekoa? No, not right now. Just something to be aware of. Something that's strong, something that's powerful. Ezekiel, sign from God. Look at opponent's hand, top deck an evil card, except a single Brigade evil card. May ban to Ezekiel hero, cannot be Brigade interrupted. So it's another prophet type card that's messing with opponent's hand. This time it can lets the opponent keep their single Brigade evil cards, but can top deck dominance, top decks multi-Brigade evil cards, top decks evil fortresses. Yeah, being able to top deck opponents' evil dominance from their deck CBI is a strong effect. And then also being able to get the opponent's hand knowledge, that's strong too. And you can kind of chain them into your prophet banding chains, your cherubim banding chains. Just a solid guy. Like, makes me want to think, how can I build a deck that has the, how can I put Ezekiel and the surveying spirit into the same banding chain? I can go like, yeah. So just, I'm thinking about that. He's a priest too. So this means cards that can get to your priest can get to this guy. This means Glory of the Lord is going to work. This means Holy of Holies. There's maybe like a Holy of Holies deck out there, because this negates characters except good OT priests. And so when you're thinking about these new priests that are getting printed, you kind of have to think about what would they look like in a Holy of Holies type build. All right, let's continue moving on here. Isaiah, son of Amos, major prophet, musician. Once per battle, if a good OT dominant is played, you may shuffle an evil card in a territory, you ban to an Isaiah hero, or you may draw X. X is limit 3. X is number of good Isaiah heroes, cannot be negated. Draw 3 cannot be negated. Hero is always something to sit up in your chair about. He also plays well with a lot of the dominants that are being played right now that like to be played in battle. Being able to shuffle evil card in territory is not all that powerful, but it's incidental value. So basically, I'm not really thinking about him as the good OT dominant played. For me, in my mind, he's kind of more like a ban to Isaiah hero or draw X CBN. Like, is that powerful enough effect that I want to run in my deck? And is it more powerful than the other Isaiah heroes? So let's see, he's up against the Isaiah who star abilities cannot be negated, or he's up against the Isaiah whose Isaiah Hansons are CBN. So I don't know, I think all three are playable in the right deck, but I do like the draw 3. And any of these Isaiah heroes that we're talking about, you also have to evaluate them, like how strong would it be to get this card out early, and how strong is this hero that negates evil characters and lost souls baked into it. So yeah, I would say overall Isaiah is pretty strong. He's a prophet, he's a musician. There's a lot of synergies between those two. There's a lot of ways to get to prophets, a lot of ways to get to musicians, maybe. I don't know if there are a lot of ways to get to musicians, but I don't know. there are ways to protect your musicians. So let's continue on. Jeremiah the Weeper. This card, from a deck building perspective, there's so many things you can do with this card. Number one, he has a strong paralyze effect that paralyzes evil characters with strength 5 or less this turn. And there's a lot of evil characters running around that have 5 or less strength. So by himself, if you combine him with 20 shekels, you could play your opponent's single blocker out of their hand and then just walk in with Jeremiah. So not only is there that element of that, you have some territory control. You also have this clause that says, while alone, reveal reserve, may use enhancements from reserve. So there's a nuance with the rules that says the use effects, like intuitively you would only imagine that this guy could only grab green enhancements from your reserve. But the way this is worded and the way the rules work, this guy is able to use any enhancement from your reserve regardless of brigade, assuming they're good enhancements. Yeah. So in order to properly evaluate Jeremiah, you'd have to go something like this: filter for good, let's see, good enhancements, and then read through all of these one by one, and then think about which one of these would be best to use with Jeremiah. So I don't have time to do all that, but this is a gold mine here for enabling combos or enabling just strong attacks. Jeremiah, he has 1 power. So that means you're most likely going to be able to get initiative most of the time. And so now that you've got initiative, what can you do with that initiative? That's the question as a deck builder you're really going to want to answer for yourself. I don't think I'll be able to answer that for you, but if you go to this website and filter, you can start getting a good idea about what your options are. But maybe I'll just get you started. If you're looking for something that's just generically powerful, being able to play the best enhancements in the game, like Amazing Faith, is really strong. What else? What else are we looking for here? You can start some side battles, shenanigans. Yes. Do banding shenanigans. Oh yes, it's all here. Maybe there's a Jaden deck out there that bounces evil cards with Grain Offering. I don't know. So let's see. If you have a 100 card deck and you're able to play 2 copies of Lost Child Found, you can go Lost Child Found, bounce some stuff, play another copy of Lost Child Found, bounce your other Lost Child Found, but then it'll go back to your hand and not your reserve. So I don't know. That's too much to think about. Maybe there's some shenanigans you can do with Lost Child Found. Mary's Prophetic Act. Any good enhancement that reserves itself is really good with Jeremiah, because like you can continue to keep playing it from your reserve. So cards like Mary's Prophetic Act or the I think it's called just Sin Offering, maybe. It's the clay one that reserves itself to negate and banish something. CBP. So like that's another one to combo with Jeremiah. Yeah, here it is. Negate and banish an evil card if used by an OT priest, which he is an OT priest, let me remind you. Reserve this card cannot be prevented. Let's see. Is there anything else I want to mention? It is overwhelming. Justin likes this card. Interrupt the battle and negate or stop a neutral card. If you're just attacking with a lone Jeremiah, maybe it'll be a good idea in your reserve to have an answer for artifacts, because we're seeing a lot more cards that activate artifacts mid-battle, and these artifacts that are activated mid-battle can put you in special initiatives, so having enhancement in your reserve that can give you an out to that with Jeremiah could be a good idea. I guess the only one I'll mention lastly is that if you Jeremiah lets you get initiative, right? So you play your enhancement and now you get to do your thing. But what if you want to have continued initiative? He's 111, so that means when you play your enhancement and it doesn't do anything, the opponent will then have initiative to play their enhancement. So if you use Potter in the Clay, that allows you to increase their blocker and decreases your hero, you could set up a scenario where you could get infinite initiative and use Mary's Prophetic Act and 4 times and whatever. So that's like another thing you can do. Jeremiah's a prophet and a priest, so there's a lot of things you can do with prophets and priests, a lot of ways to get to him. You can build your deck around Jeremiah if you want to. One way that Jeremiah can be dealt with is if his ability gets negated, all of a sudden you lose access to that reserve, and now Jeremiah's out here by himself. But if you want to have a way to give Jeremiah the CBN modifier, you can use Defender of the Saints to give priest or exchange with priest from deck, reserve, or discard pile. So this is like a way to get Jeremiah back if he's ever discarded. And he also gives that priest cannot be negated. And he protects him from demons. So like if you're running Jeremiah, like Defender of the Saints is a really good card you want to consider for him. Jeremiah works really well with Glory of the Lord. I think he works well with Solomon's Temple too. There's like let's look at the new Solomon's Temple. Solomon's Temple. So you can underdeck artifacts here to take a Solomon's Temple priest from your deck. So that gets your Jeremiah. Let's see. You also have your, what's that good enhancement that thought it was purple. No, it's not. It's It's purple white eel, right? Yeah, this one you can play this as your territory class card and then protect your Solomon's Temple priest from evil cards this turn. So having it protected Jeremiah in battle is really scary. There's so many things you can do with this card. I barely scratched the surface, and I'm excited to see what people cook up with Jeremiah as the year continues to develop. Joel, son of Pethuel. You may shuffle up to 7 cards from hand to draw X. Once per game, you may play and convert an evil human from a deck. Cannot be negated. So Joel, what is Joel good at? He's good at getting initiative. He's a 212. He's a prophet. He's a lot of ways to get to prophets. He's great at cycling through your deck if you're really trying to search for certain cards. He's able to turn your current hand and ship it out and grab a new hand of gas. And then he's also good at setting up combos that involve evil humans that are converted. So you have to, when evaluating Joel, something you'd have to do is look at evil characters and then filter to, I don't think I have a human filter, but looking at the evil humans that are here and asking yourself, how good would this card be if I could convert it to a good human? And obviously that's a lot of work, but I do just want to point out that the fact that this helps your temple guard strategy. I played this last year where I would try to convert this guy to a hero and then attack and then play a card with a banding ability. So Joel can help set that up. So I guess he's just kind of good for enabling or thinking about weird combos you can do with that. Okay, Malachi, you may look at the top 4 cards of deck, take up to 1. You may underdeck the rest, may ban to a minor prophet. Okay, first let's look at the minor prophets. So let's do identifier contains minor and hero. So here's your list of minor prophets. You have a lot of options here. Notably, Amos is one of them. I don't know. You got a lot of minor prophets to evaluate. So like his band is relevant, and then he has a look at the top 4 cards of deck, take up to 1. So not only is this card advantage, you're getting to manipulate the top cards of your deck. So this is good for maybe trying to set up a star ability or underdeck Lost Souls from your deck. And so when you combine Malachi with Samuel, who can also kind of do like this looking at the top card of deck and underdecking stuff, you can potentially put your deck in a way where you're not drawing Lost Souls, basically. So now you have 2 heroes that could enable this strategy. So maybe there's something here. Maybe there's a green deck that doesn't draw a lot, that just tries to attack with Malachi or Samuel each turn and keep your Lost Souls at the bottom. Maybe that's a strategy. All right, moving on. We got Zechariah the Seer reveal. Oh, wait. Sorry. Before I move on, I want to say that maybe Malachi could also combo with any evil card that cares about manipulating the bottom card of your deck. So like High Places, Gates of Hell. Malachi can combo with your Gates of Hell by underdecking demons and then being able to put them out with Gates of Hell. So that's all I wanted to say. Zechariah this year, you may reveal a good dominant from hand to protect heroes from harm. May ban to a minor prophet or Zechariah hero. So what I'm seeing here as I'm looking at all these new heroes, I'm seeing a lot of heroes that march into battle giving kind of blanket protection. We saw one in silver, we saw one in white, now we're seeing one in green. These effects have existed, but now we're seeing them being printed much more often and being able to kind of put them in different banding chains or kind of have them in the territory class. I think maybe that's a newer aspect. So as a deck builder, I want to be aware of that and then being able to build my defense in a way that I can adapt to that. So what's one way I can do that? Well, let's look at evil enhancements that have a special ability that says regardless of protect. So, let's see. Maybe there needs to be more of these printed, but they're doing some. Here's one. You can like negate a card, capture a hero, underdeck all heroes in battle, regardless of protect. This is probably like maybe the best one. All the other ones I think just kind of deal with maybe like one hero at a time. Here's another one that got printed that can be used to maybe hedge against this new emergence of this blanket protection we're seeing on heroes. So of all the colors, it feels like maybe black is the most equipped to deal with that. They're struck and scattered and smashed opponent. So anyways, moving on. May ban to a minor prophet or Zechariah hero. We've already looked at the minor prophets and we've already looked at the Zechariah heroes. This guy is a minor prophet. He's a postie. He's a priest. Man, like where do you start with this guy? Well, let's look at the post-exilic filter first. Now he kind of fits in with this post-exilic group of people. So there's a lot of cards that can exchange or ban to post-exilic, and being able to have an effect that protects your posties from harm is really strong. Being able to ban to a minor prophet. So let's see, we can ban to Haggai, who can ban to Ezra, Haggai, or Zechariah heroes, and that fits right in with what you're trying to do in posties. So I think we'll be seeing a Jaden version of posties come out with Zechariah in it in the relative future. I'm excited to see that. He got some new toys with Jadua and Zechariah, but this does come at a cost. So let's see, you're now playing gold, red, teal, green, and clay in a Prince of the World, or sorry, Prince of the Air meta. So good luck with that, Jaden. But Zechariah this year could help you with that by protecting your heroes from the Prince underdeck. And yeah, I think Posties has tools. But what made Jaden's deck from last season really effective was being able to combine Joshua with the Posties. Now that you have Zechariah, I'd be interested to see if he's able to continue keeping Joshua and the Posties together, or if he's adding Zechariah, for example, if he'd have to cut maybe the Joshua package. But the Joshua package is really strong. Maybe the trade-off is worth it. Maybe he leans more into like Jadua, Zechariah, Haggai. Yeah, there's definitely a deck here that I'm excited to see and maybe even build for myself. He's a priest, so he works with Glory of the Lord. He works with Holy of Holies, Minor Prophet. He works with Watchmen. He's single Brigade. You can play multiple copies. You can get Victorious Being in here. Yeah, so like as a deck builder, I'm like really excited to play with this card. And I feel like I've said that a lot. As we've evaluated all these different heroes from the Times to Come set, they've all been mono brigade, so that opens up a lot of things you can do. And then a lot of them have been priests or prophets or Daniel heroes, and there's a lot of ways to get to them. So wow. And I haven't even started talking about the good enhancements. So I've been rambling about for an hour and 30 minutes. Is there any world in where I want to finish off these guys? I don't think there is. I think this video is only going to be scoped to the heroes, and we're going to have to get to the enhancements in another video. But if you've made it this far, thanks for listening to my ramblings, and I will see you next time. Redemption,